Let me just share my screen. Is it up for everybody? Great. Well, thanks for having me. I think Larry, Barta, and I talked about this back before everything hit the fan in February, and Real ID was sort of more of a front burner issue because it looked like it was going to be October of 2020 of this year. And so we've bounced it back a little bit. So Real ID has a little bit less urgency because now the feds have delayed the deadline until at least October of 2021. But happy to go through this and talk about Real ID and answer any questions about that or really anything related to the Wisconsin DMV. And feel free to, I think, if it's okay with you, Jason, people jumping in with questions, I don't need to wait till the end. Great, so feel free to jump in, but thanks to Larry. I spent 5 years, I've been with DOT for 26 years, the first 5 years with the State Patrol, then 7 years with DTSD, including 5 years with Larry at the Southwest region, and then came over to DMV 15 years ago, dipped my toes in with US DOT with the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration for a bit, but have been with Wisconsin DOT forever. So here's Real ID, if it works. There we go. So Real ID, just in case you don't know, it was a federal law that was passed back in 2005, actually, and it was in response to the recommendations from the 9/11 Commission. And part of the recommendations was making the state-issued driver's license and ID card a more secure document. And so 2005 was a long time ago. That's the year I actually came to DMV, and that was my first big project, was Real ID. So I've been with Real ID for 15 years, never imagining that we would still not be done with it in 2020. But our goal with Wisconsin all along was to be in compliance with the federal requirements at the minimum cost possible with the minimum inconvenience to our customers. And I think that we've accomplished that. So Real ID is federal requirements for a driver's license or ID card. The stick that the feds will use, as you may know, is that once the deadline hits, in order to get on a plane to go into a federal facility or a military base, you'll need either your US passport, a Real ID state driver's license or ID card compliant, or a few other very small number of documents. And so we'll talk today about how do you get it, but that's why you need it. Supposedly, in October of 21, you will need that in order to board an airplane. There's a lot of doubt nationally about that, even that deadline staying, because there are a number of states, including Illinois, that have just started issuing Real IDs. And so the idea that 60% of people in Illinois in a 1-year period will get a Real ID, I think is slim or none. And you can imagine O'Hare Airport with, half the people showing up without the credential they need to get in an airplane. So don't drop everything and get the Real ID, but we'll pretend as if October of 21 is still the real deal. And then we'll do a little bonus secrets for a faster DMV visit, whether you need your Real ID or not. All right. Yeah, Jason's excited. All right, so just sort of reiterate again, October of 21, you'll need this document to get on, to fly, to get on military bases, etc. Now your passport is good. You don't need a Real ID if you have a passport, a valid passport. A lot of people don't want to carry a passport around for domestic travel, so they'll get the Real ID, but just to make sure everybody understands that. And our website, the one thing I'll tell you, and you can tell your friends and neighbors, because I know you like to talk about the DMV quite a bit with friends and family, WisconsinDMV.gov is very important because there are copycat sites out there that use a different, instead of .gov, .something, that purport to be the official website, and then they charge customers for documents that are free and pretend to offer services and charge for services that either they can't offer or are free. So .gov is a very important thing I'll just throw out there. All right. So as we said, you'll need it for air travel and to enter military bases or other federal buildings. And so if you have a driver's license right now or an ID card and you're not sure if you have a real ID, that's what you're looking for, either a gold star or a black star in the upper right corner of your product. If you have that, that means you have a compliant product. And if you don't have that, if it says nothing or not for federal purposes, then you don't have a compliant product. In Wisconsin, though, no matter whether you have a star or not, your product is valid to get on an airplane until October of 21. So you don't need to do anything differently now, and all these products are valid, whether driver's license or ID card, for federal purposes until 21 October. So these are the things that can get you on a plane in a year and a half or so. And you can see that there's one of those products has a gold star and one of those has a black star. When we first started issuing real IDs in 2013, they were gold, and then we switched over to black when we moved to a new card vendor in 2015-ish. And so that's the black star there. And then your passport, as I noted, is valid as well. But it doesn't matter what color the star is. If you have a star, you're good to go. All right. So whether you're getting a real ID or just coming in to renew your license, you can go to wisconsindmv.gov and real ID. And we offer a service now where if you do the application online and it makes sure you have all the documents you want, when you're coming in to renew, whether it's to renew to get a real ID or renew your real ID, you can actually get an appointment for service that guarantees you that you'll get called up within 10 minutes of that appointment time. And so, but you have to use the form and get everything filled out beforehand. And so that gets you up to the counter faster, and then your transaction goes a lot faster. And so that's something we've been doing for a couple years that a lot of people don't know about yet. So this is where you would go on our website. It's called the DL Guide. And it walks you through, if you're enrolling in Real ID, it walks you through what you need. If you're just renewing your driver's license. One of the things in Wisconsin, as I said at the beginning, we want to make this as convenient for customers as we can, is we give customers the choice. They can either get a compliant card or a non-compliant card. A lot of states actually chose to require only issue compliant products. And so what we saw, especially Florida, for example, was one of the federal requirements is that you provide proof of your name change. And in Florida, with this large senior population, you have women who have been married 2 or 3 times who would have to get a death certificate, the next marriage certificate, and then if they outlived a second husband, another death certificate, and then another marriage certificate to prove their name change. And it was very burdensome, and they were turning away 50% of their customers when they first started. And so we wanted to give our customers the choice to enroll or not enroll. And so when people come in, they don't need to have all the documents to get a real ID. They can just renew their current one if they want. So how do I get a real ID? So real ID requirements, they're set by the federal government. They include legal presence, proof of legal name, proof of date of birth, any name changes, as I said, and then your proof of address. And so we'll talk a little bit about those. Proof of name and date of birth, for most of us, it'll be the passport or the certified birth certificate. If people were born abroad, they have consular cards. If they have immigrated and have legal presence, they'll have their immigration documents. But for most people, it's the passport or the certified birth certificate. We have issues that a lot of people bring in a hospital birth certificate with the footprints, and unfortunately, the federal rules are explicit that states may not make exceptions and take those documents. And so we turn a lot of people away, unfortunately. And we want to get people in as fast as we can, believe it or not, with the DMV. And we hate people making 2 visits because they're waiting twice and we have to deal with them twice. We want everybody to get what they need the first time they come in as quickly as possible. The good thing about the passport for women who have changed their name with marriage, or men now, is the passport, if your legal name is on the passport, you don't need to provide your wedding certificate or things like that. But if you bring in your birth certificate and the name is not the same, then you'll need to bring in the proof of that name change. So the passport is a good thing to have. But again, if you have the passport, you don't need the real ID if you want to carry your passport around.
Patrick, quick question. Does
Yeah.
it require a current passport or can it be expired?
I think the rules are that it could be expired up to a year. Thanks for the question. Proof of name change, we just talked about that. Proof of social security number, one of the things, there's a lot of things about the federal rules that we've been fighting about, me personally, for 12 years, and this is one of them. We verify the social security number. There's an online system called SSOLVE, the Social Security Online Verification System. So we verify the social security number with Social Security Administration, but the federal rules require you to bring in your social security card or a W-2 or something with the social security number on it. And that's something that people can forget. And that, again, that leads to 2 visits, which the customer hates and we hate. But the federal government, at least currently, has always refused to change their mind on that, unfortunately. Now with COVID and the pandemic, they moved the deadline a year from October of 20 to October of 21. And they also took comments from states about ways to improve Real ID and the system. And so one of the things that states asked for, again, including Wisconsin, was to eliminate this need for the Social Security card to be presented when we verify it behind the scenes. And then proof of address, lots of different proofs of address. This is another spot where, not to complain about the feds too much, I'm sure you guys don't complain about the feds at all, ever. You just complain about WisDOT. But one of the issues is Wisconsin, when we became compliant back in 2013, we said we'll take, because we have central issuance, which is where we mail, you come in, you do your transaction, we give you a receipt over the counter. I'm sure almost all of you have done that. And then we mail you your product. And that, we said, that would provide the second proof of address, which the feds require. Unfortunately, last year, the feds decided, oops, we were wrong. And Wisconsin, you need to require 2 proofs of address. And so going forward, starting in July, people will be required to provide 2 proofs of address rather than just 1 plus the mailing. Now that they've opened up comments again, we're going to take another run at that because it's a hassle for our customers and I think adds no value to the security of the product. They don't care what I think, but I'm trying it again. And we'll see what happens. But that'll be something new in July, that people are required to bring in 2 proofs of address. Cost for Real ID. So when you can look in your driver's license, it says when it's expired. You can renew up to 1 year in advance of that expiration date, and you'll still get a product that's good for 8 years from the expiration date. And you can come in and enroll during your normal cycle for no extra cost. It's just the $34. If you come in off cycle, which means when you're not eligible to renew, then you have to pay a duplicate fee, which is $14 for a driver's license, $16 for an ID. Keeping in mind, though, that if somebody needs an ID for voting purposes, they get it for free in Wisconsin since 2011. One of our pilots that you might have heard about at DOT is we are offering now for drivers 18 to 64 that they can renew their driver's license online and avoid a trip to the DMV completely. And so if you expire within 1 year from today, so June 12th of 2021, you can go online today and renew your driver's license, and you don't have to come back to the DMV for 9 years. So anybody who is eligible to renew. Same for people. We extended the deadline for anybody whose driver's license expired March 12th or after, automatically are extended through July 25th. And for people over 60, they're automatically extended through September 24th. And so that's something just to keep in mind, that you can go online and renew if you haven't renewed already. for the normal cost. If you don't have a real ID, though, and you want one, that requires an in-person visit because you have to present those documents to us. We scan them into our system as is required by federal law. All right, secrets for a faster trip. So before all this happened with the COVID, I would tell you that the DMV, you know, one of the nice things when I came to DMV was the bar was so low for customer expectations, and especially other states are so bad compared to us. We would get comments all the time about how I brought a book and a lunch and I was in and out in 20 minutes. And the average, last year in 2019, the average wait time was 13 minutes and 12 seconds in Wisconsin. And so if you take that wait time plus the 6 minutes for the average transaction, and let's say even if you waited 5 minutes to get to the info desk, you're still, from the time you pull that door open to come into a DMV office to when you pull it out with your product walking out the door, you're out in less than 25 minutes typically, the average customer. And so we really want to serve people fast and good and get them what they want. And so wisconsindmv.gov, again, remembering the .gov, you can go there. It tells you all the forms you need. You can find the nearest DMV. It has real-time wait times. So for our 35-day offices that are ticketed, where you get a ticket and get to sit down, that account for about 85% of our customers, each one of those offices has online the real-time wait times at that office right now. Right now, because we're not taking vehicle customers to maintain social distancing, we're only taking driver's license and ID card customers. The wait times are typically about 6 minutes. So it's pretty good right now. And then the wisconsindmv.gov/DL guide, that's where you can go to do your renewal. It'll tell you the documents you have. You can fill out the form online. You can make an appointment, which guarantees you service. And then the transaction will go much more quickly. And also, we have a service called e-Notify that we encourage everybody to sign up for, where instead of getting a postcard saying your registration renewal for your vehicle is due or your driver's license is due, you'll get a text or an email, whatever you want. And then it'll, if you don't follow up, it'll send you another one saying, hey, you got 3 days. Hey, it's due today. And the great news for DMV is it saves us postage. Great news for you is it's fast, convenient, and effective. So you can sign up for that online as well. And that's it. I'm open to questions about anything and everything, including Real ID, but beyond if you'd like.
Well, first of all, huge thank you to you, Patrick, for this. This is fantastic. Very, very helpful. Very humorous, by the way, too, and very time. I don't want anyone to think this, but my license is expiring in 2020. So the whole reason we had this presentation was for me personally.
Excellent.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
So anyone have any questions for Patrick?
I have one. Patrick, I mean, one thing that's an issue with the driver's license is in connection with voting and voter IDs, which is there's just a lot of issues with that. What are you guys doing to kind of make that work as well as you can, given the COVID time and all of that? Yeah.
So in Wisconsin, we never shut down at all for to serve customers who needed a product for voting. And, you know, there's arguments either way. Almost every other state in the area, except for Iowa, shut down completely for a while. We stayed open. But now we have plexiglass barriers up. All of our staff have masks. We have hand sanitizer for the eye machines, and we're doing everything we can to keep our customers and our staff safe. And so anybody who wants to come in for a driver's license or an ID transaction can do so. Looking ahead to August and November, we'll have extended hours the weeks of election at the DMVs on the Mondays and Tuesdays at all of our offices to give people a chance to come in. We working with, as a result of various lawsuits, the DMV has a lot of processes that we follow to make sure that people get the products to vote with that they need. And it's our top priority. You know, we take the role very seriously, and customer service is what we're all about. And the courts and the statutes have said, Wisconsin DMV, you're in the voting business. And so we take that very seriously. Thank you.
Can I follow up on that, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there a process? Is it any different process to get a real ID if you just want to get an ID and you're not, for whatever reason, you're not getting a driver's license, or you can't get a driver's license?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the sort of confusing parts of calling the law real ID, because it's a driver's license or an ID card, versus in Wisconsin, we have ID cards, and then we have people talk about voter ID cards. And so it kind of gets mixed up. We make sure that if somebody comes in and they don't have the documents they need to get a real ID, they're still walking out of our office with a product. Whether it's a non-compliant ID, which requires less documentation. So for instance, if you only have one proof of ID of address and not two, you'll get a non-compliant ID, but you're getting something. And then people who walk in with nothing at all, they get what we call we use the IDPP, or identification petition process, where we give them a receipt that's valid for voting, and then we keep working with that customer trying to help them get what they need to get a regular ID, an official one. But if they don't and they keep working with us, they keep getting a product to vote with forever. So if somebody comes into our office, they're walking out with something to vote with.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is there any other purpose for the real ID for people besides flying? Like if somebody, acknowledges I'm afraid of flying or I'm never going to do that, is there any need for the real ID?
No, it's only for federal purposes, and it's flying, it's some federal facilities and military bases. And so and we get a lot of people say, I'm never flying. And so right now, I think about 45% of people in Wisconsin have a real ID, 55 don't. I think once we get to flip that, I really do think there's probably 40% of people in Wisconsin who really don't need it. But if they do, they can come in and get it, and it'll be fine. Thanks.
Any more questions for Patrick? Well, Patrick, thank you very much. This was really helpful and really insightful. We've recorded this presentation too, so if you have any other information, are we able to share your presentation or not?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. So we will send that presentation out. So make sure that the whole committee has that, because it's a much larger committee, so everyone has that information. So again, thank you for your hard work on this. It's very important transportation topic, so we're very thankful. And again, thank you to Larry for setting this all up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks, Larry. Take care, everybody.